We have a massive Leafs update to go over today as it pertains to Mitch Marner's future in Toronto, as a shocking new report has dropped revealing some wild new information surrounding not only his future, but a guarantee regarding his future in Toronto. We'll break down exactly what that guarantee is and discuss what it means. This changes the outlook of the offseason and for the first time gives us a clear-cut idea of what the Leafs and Mitch Marner's plans are going forward. We also have a few other updates to go over today, folks. This report is crazy, but before we dive into it, a quick reminder, if you're part of the 71% who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. Bear with the setup. I'll be back home on Friday in my normal setup. But Darius, a lot to go over today, and this new report has dropped. And it's a big one, and it is a very, very surprising one in a degree. The way that he went about it is kind of, he's putting the firm on the line here. Darren Dreger says that Mitch Marner's odds of leaving Toronto are now at 99% on Leafs Morning Take podcast. We've been hearing a bunch of different things. We've been hearing regarding, he might stay. Elliot Friedman saying he's not 100% sure that he's leaving. We've heard that he's going to play the field, but most likely gone. Darren Dreger's coming out, and he's pretty chimed in and tuned in here and giving it a 99% chance that he is leaving the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I'll bring up something in a minute from last year, but I'll start with this, Darius. What are your thoughts? 99% gone, which makes sense for the first time. You have a concrete idea that they're going to move elsewhere at this point.
Now, keep in mind, we know Darren Dreger's a bit of a mouthpiece for the Mitch Marner camp over the last couple of years, since 2019, really. So keep that in mind. This could be some negotiating through the media because at the same time, we haven't had any clarity on what's actually happening with Mitch Marner. He could remain a Leaf. I don't know how you come back from what happened at the end of the season, but he could remain a Leaf. And we're going to hear from Brad Treliving Thursday at 10 a.m. And we're going to get some clarity on a couple things. It's the first time he's speaking since the season ended. So that's going to be, I'm really excited for that, first of all. And hopefully we have some clarity on Mitch Marner. But on the other side of things, if this is true, I do absolutely believe it. Now, we know that there's a lot of teams interested. We know Anaheim's interested. The Red Wings are. There's a bunch of teams. LA, and we heard that Mitch Marner would prefer to go to Vegas or Florida, which would essentially make him the Kevin Durant of the NHL at this point. So that's going to be exciting to see what happens with that. But I don't know if he can return to this team. And is Mitch Marner a great player? Yes. Are you going to be able to replace him? No, but I don't even think it's about replacing Mitch Marner at this point. You want something different. You don't want a guy who's going to come in and be exactly Mitch Marner. That's the whole point of all of this. So I think that they're probably going to go their separate ways. But again, we'll see. Brad Treliving, I'm sure, is doing some work this week, and he's going to speak to the media, in a couple of days here, tomorrow.
Yeah, obviously early tomorrow, and we'll cover that. But yeah, you're obviously. I'm going to take Darren Dreger with, you always take him with a grain of salt, but I'm going to go with him here and just assume here that he is telling the truth. Now, they're getting, could be some negotiation tactics from Darren Ferris and things like that, but 99% gone, given the fact he is a UFA. I think there's some, but you also pair, some of the other things here, but you also mentioned Elliot Friedman's report, and he said that in a perfect world, Toronto would like to keep Mitch Marner, but there are big hurdles. This was, of course, earlier. This is the more recent report from Darren Dreger. I'm fine with letting Mitch Marner walk, and I think that this all but guarantees that he's going to walk, but not just this report by Darren Dreger, but all the other reports as well. And in all these different, we think about the list of teams that Mitch Marner was linked to, Vegas, Florida, all these teams, none of which were the Toronto Maple Leafs or any Canadian team for that matter. So if you want to take that for what it is there, you pair that with the 99%. I think at this point, you can see here, also another report from Jonas Siegel saying a breakup is almost certainly what's best for Marner, a chance to start afresh as a star and acquire a market in Toronto away from the constant scrutiny and free of baggage. And we know that following the season end, he was talking about how it was hard on his family, all these different things. I mean, all these different reports. I think at this point, I'm ready to basically say, unless he's willing to take a hometown discount, which I don't think he's going to. I don't think he's going to take a Toronto discount. He's all but gone. And the 99% here pretty much guarantees it for me. And if this is some elaborate media, work by his agent, and then Toronto pays him $14 million, then I'll eat my own words here. But I'm ready to almost pack it in. But again, I want to hear from Brad Treliving tomorrow. He'll probably give us some clarity, though I do think. I'm hoping that he gives us clarity in a bit less of a, just a way where it's like, okay, we don't really want to move on with that player, rather than, saying, I don't really know which way we're going. But again, it's going to be interesting to see tomorrow. But yeah, crazy how far things have came from last season when they tried to extend him during the year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And criticism comes from everywhere. Pressure is everywhere right now. I mean, look what the Edmonton Oilers are doing in a hockey crazy market in Canada, right? Like it is everywhere. And Matthew Nyes came out a couple of days ago and said that he's embracing that and he wants to be in Toronto, right? And he likes to play under the bright light. So if that is a problem for Mitch Marner, that's a garbage mindset. And I'm not sure you should want that in your organization or on the team anyway, right? So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here. And I think some of the hurdles that Elliot Friedman is probably talking about is the money bags that Marner is requesting from MLSE for regular season success, which we know doesn't matter in this city anymore. It doesn't matter. I'm not even sure if it ever mattered for these fans and this city. So it's just a garbage mindset. If that is a thing that does bother him and that he wants to get away from it, go do that then, because we want guys on this team. It's about the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Toronto Maple Leafs success. And there's a couple guys already that you can see on this team that are embracing it and want to be here. And again, look at what Edmonton's doing the last couple of years. The criticism's always there. They had back-to-back shutouts, and the first question to McDavid was, why can't you guys play defense, right? That stuff happens in other markets as well. So I don't want to hear that anymore about Toronto and how it's hard to play here. And I like that Keith Pelly also said that they have to, mend their relationship with the fan base and the media, right? And some of the players have to be more available. Things are going to change in that way, and I think that's a good thing. It might be a minor change in terms of it has nothing to do with the on ice product, but that's something that they do have to take a look at. So I feel like things are kind of moving in the right direction. If that's how Marner feels too, then maybe you got to move in a different direction. Again, it's not about replacing the player. You want something different anyway. So it's interesting. I still think there is a world, and a lot of people are changing their minds because of what's happening with Carolina and all that right now too. But I think the most likely outcome, while this could be still negotiating through the media, is that he will leave.
Yeah, and last year we had a report 95% that he was going to get traded, and ultimately he didn't. But it's a bit different now that he is a free agent, and they lost yet again. And again, like I mentioned, in a perfect world here, the Leafs would have liked to extend Mitch Marner. They tried to during the season this past year, and Mitch Marner declined. And I really think that assuming that he leaves, this is going to end up being a blessing in disguise for Toronto, because assuming you extended him to 8 years, let's say, and you lost again this year in the postseason, you don't have a ton of room to go from there. You have to, re-sign Matthew Nyes. You have to do things like that. So that's going to, and John Tavares at this point, who seemingly is all but extended already. Now you have some people like Paul Bissonnette coming out and saying, offer Marner 8x12 and run it back. He owes Leaf Nation a discount. Nyes at 8.5. Obviously, this is a perfect world with John Tavares at 3x3. Whether he's 100% serious here or not, even if Mitch Marner is at $12 million, I mean, it makes a lot more sense for the Leafs and for everybody. A, I don't think that's going to happen, but B, I still don't know if I'd want Mitch Marner back at 8x12. I think the only way Mitch Marner makes sense for the Leafs if it's around $10 million, and that's because of just how close they are to, of course. I mean, they need a lot of work. This team has a ton of holes, and the more you go up by the millions here, the more the Leafs are almost going to be screwed regarding getting other players as well. And we know, we had a video on it, the crazy incidents that happened with Mitch Marner back in 2019, the fan incidents, the elevator, all these different things that have happened. I think the relationship is pretty fractured right now, and I think a lot of it's from Mitch Marner's side. And based on his press conference compared to John Tavares and Matthew Nyes, I don't see Mitch Marner wanting to stay in Toronto either, which is one of the biggest things here. I think he said in the past that he's wanted to stay in Toronto. Maybe that still is the case, but based off of his postseason press conference after they lost, I'm not entirely sure the player wants to remain in Toronto either at this point.
No, I'm not sure either. I think that's probably the most likely thing at this point. Like, the player doesn't want to return, right? But I've seen a lot of people speculating too, and I thought this was interesting that maybe there's a fracture in the dressing room too. I say maybe. There probably is at this point, between like Nylander and Marner and maybe their mindsets, right? And I'll tell you that I'd rather the mindset of William Nylander after watching that Amazon documentary. So a lot of people are speculating maybe they trade William Nylander somehow, which has a no movement clause. It's going to be very difficult to do, to keep Mitch Marner. I wouldn't do that. I would never do that. Nylander's always showed up in the big moments. I don't care what anyone says. You don't even have to look at the stats. Just go watch the games and the highlights. He's always showed up in these moments that you need the big players to show up in the moment. So he's done that. Mitch Marner hasn't, and you can tell from the mindset from the Amazon documentary and just watching on the ice, one player has it over the other. So I don't like that, speculation right now, but anything I think is still on the table right now. So that's why I'm so excited to hear from Brad Treliving, because I feel like we're going to get some answers. I want to hear what he has to say about the team's performance this year and what he's seeing, because I liked his exit interview last year too. Had a lot of insight there. So it's going to be fun, and we'll see you guys then. And I don't know, we'll see what happens with Mitch Marner, but I don't think he's returning.
Yeah, I don't think at this point it's super likely either. We will be live streaming the press conference tomorrow, so make sure to stay tuned for that. But also down below what your thoughts are on this new report. Do you want Mitch Marner back? Keep you guys up to date. More videos coming. Thank you guys for watching. See you later.